Now, the development of the female reproductive system. Now, the female reproductive system comprises of basically the two ovaries, the genital ducts, and the external genitalia. Right. So, coming to the ovary, sex of the embryo is determined at the time of the fertilization. The chromosomal complement in female is XX, and various components of ovary are the germ cells, the follicular cells, and the stromal cells. The germ cells get migrated dorsocaudally at the end of the yolk sac. Right. Formation of the gonads. Now you can see the embryo over here, 5th week, and you can see from the yolk sac, the germ cells are migrating dorsocaudally. Right? Can you see this? Forming the mesonephric duct, and the genital duct over here. Now, this section over here of the embryo, here. Right. So we have the primordial germ cells coming from the yolk sac into the genital ridge. The follicular cells are derived from the epithelial cells of the coelomic epithelium, while the stromal cells are derived from the mesoderm. There is no tunica albuginea in the ovary, and the cortical part of the gonad predominates. The ovary descends down into the pelvis, and this descent is interrupted due to the presence of the single uterus, which divides the gubernaculum into ligament of ovary and the round ligament of the uterus. Here, you can see the primordial germ cells over here in an undifferentiated gonad on either sides. Right. So we have this paramesonephric duct over here. The primary oocyte, follicle cell, interstitial cell. Follicle cell derived from the epithelium of the coelomic cavity. The paramesonephric duct grows up while the rest degenerates. Here is the ovary formation, right? Now the ducts. In females, the Mullerian or the paramesonephric duct, as you saw previously, predominates, which is situated lateral to the mesonephri, opens caudally into the definitive urogenital sinus. The Mullerian duct proliferates. The Mullerian duct proliferates due to the presence of estrogen and the absence of testosterone and of the Mullerian inhibiting substance. The Mullerian duct forms all four parts of the fallopian tube. Have a look at the genital ducts formation. Here, this is the embryo. You can see the hindgut part of the embryo, right? You can see the gonad, the mesonephros, and the mesonephric duct, and the paramesonephric duct as well. Right? Can you see this? This is the bladder, urogenital sinus, which will form the primitive bladder. Formation of the male reproductive duct. Here. Here is your paramesonephric duct forming testes in the mesonephric duct, ureter and the urogenital sinus. Here. So the testis descends down, the mesonephric duct and tubule persists. It goes down. Form the ductus deferens, efferent ductules, and the epididymis. Formation of the male accessory sex organs. Right. Here you can see this is the base of the bladder, anorectal septum, pelvic portion of the phallic part. Here can you see this budding, proliferation. Now this is your, you can see this is the prostate gland forming. Coming to the female reproductive duct, which is your Mullerian or the paramesonephric duct. So in this section you can see, this is a section taken at that level. You can see the various parts of the female reproductive system getting formed. Here is uterovaginal primordium forming an ovary with the paramesonephric duct. It's the front view, this is the mid-sagittal view. You can see the regression of the mesonephric duct, and the paramesonephric duct persist, forming the fallopian tube. These are the ovary or the gonads, which will come to lie underneath it. And then we have the uterus, the vagina, and the vestibule. This is the sagittal view. Can you see the section over here? And this is the section at the lower level. Now, the distal part of the two ducts fuse to form the single uterovaginal canal, which you saw previously, which gives rise to the uterus with the fundus body and the cervical part. The Wolffian duct or the mesonephric duct forms the trigone of the bladder as a functional component, the duct of Gartner being a vestigial component. So I think it's the same video, you have seen it before. If we compare the derivatives of the female and the male urogenital structures, okay, the embryonic structure of the genital tubercle forms the clitoris in female and the penis in male. The urogenital fold forms the labia minora in females and the ventral aspect of penis in males. The labioscrotal swelling forms the labia majora, and the male forms the scrotum. The urogenital sinus forms the urinary bladder, urethral gland, the vagina, and the Bartholin gland in the female, whereas in male it forms the urinary bladder, urethra and its glands, the prostate, and the bulbourethral glands. The paramesonephric duct or the Mullerian duct forms the uterus, cervix, fallopian tube, and upper part of the vagina. In males, forms the appendix of testis. The mesonephric duct or the Wolffian duct forms in female duct of Gartner, duct of Epipheron, trigone of the urinary bladder. In males, forms the epididymis, the vas deferens, the seminal vesicle, and the trigone of the urinary bladder. The mesonephric tubule forms the epipheron and the parapheron, whereas in males it forms the paradidymus and the efferent ductules. Gonad, ovary secretes estrogen and progesterone hormone, and it is a pelvic organ, whereas testis secretes testosterone hormone. Testis descends outside the abdominal cavity as spermatogenesis requires 3-degree lower temperature. The gubernaculum in female forms the ligament of ovary and the round ligament of uterus. In males forms the gubernaculum and the testis. The Mullerian tubercle forms the hymen in the female and the seminal colliculus in the male. Now, the mesonephric tubules, these are only the vestigial elements in females, and they are the epipheron and the parapheron you have seen before. The parapheron, a very short rudimentary tubule situated between the broad ligament of the ovary. I'd like to show it to you, the parapheron here. So you can see these transverse ductules over here. This is basically the vestigial part, right? These are these tubules, remnant of the tubules. Okay, So you saw the short rudimentary tubules. The epipheron consists of the 10 to 15 parallel tubules in the lateral part of the mesosalpinx. You saw they are ending in a longitudinal duct. They represent the cranial mesonephric tubule, while the duct is the remnant of the mesonephric duct. Duct of Gartner. Occasionally, the duct of epipheron is much larger than the usual and is called the duct of Gartner. Can be traced first along the uterine tube and then along the margins of the uterus up to the level of the internal os. Further down, runs through the cervix and the lateral wall of the vagina, ending near the free margin of the hymen, representing the mesonephric duct, may form a cyst in the anterior or the lateral wall of the vagina. Vesicular appendix. Occasionally, one or two pedunculated cysts are found attached to the fimbriated end of the uterine tube. They are called the vesicular appendix or paramesonephric appendices. They are believed to develop from the cranial end of the paramesonephric duct, right? And this can be seen here. This is the vesicular appendix, stalked, hydrated. Yeah, so this occasionally these ducts can be seen. This is your vesicular appendix. Okay, you can see over here. These are this is the duct. You can see this is the duct, right? And this is this vesicular appendix over here, lying in the mesosalpinx. Now the vagina, as the fused Mullerian or the paramesonephric duct, which form the uterovaginal canal, open into the definitive uterogenital sinus. The endoderm bulges to form the Mullerian tubercle. The uterovaginal canal forms upper one-third of the vagina. The endoderm on either side of the Mullerian tubercle proliferates to form two sino-vaginal bulbs which fuse to form the vaginal plate. Okay, so have a look at this again. You will understand that the upper part is called the uterovaginal canal, which is forming the upper one-third of the canal, whereas the lower third is coming from the endoderm on either sides of the Mullerian tubercle. Okay, so the uterovaginal primordium over here. This talks about the male part. Okay, so the mesonephric duct descending down, the testis descending down. Okay, this is just your for revision. You can have a look at this again, right? So this is forming the prostrate gland. There is proliferations over here, part of the urogenital sinus. Right, coming to the female reproductive system, you can see that the testis or the mesonephric duct goes off, and there is persistence of the paramesonephric duct, which will form the parts of the female reproductive system. Okay, right. This is the paramesonephric duct unfused part. Right. So if you see over here, yeah, this is the uterovaginal primordium. Okay, on either sides. It is all formed by the paramesonephric duct. Okay, and this part, that is the lower part, is formed differently. Here is the vagina and the vestibule. You can see in yellow it is formed differently. How it is formed differently? The vaginal plate surrounding the caudal end of the uterovaginal canal. There is canalization of this vaginal plate to form the lower two-third of the vagina, and the vaginal fornices opens through an endodermal partial septum called the hymen in the urogenital definitive sinus. The external genitalia. The mesenchymal cells migrate around the cloacal membrane to form the cloacal folds. These folds fuse ventrally to form the genital tubercle. The cloacal fold gets divided into the urethral fold anteriorly and the anal fold posteriorly. This occurs at the same time that the cloacal membrane gets divided into the urogenital membrane and the anal membrane. Okay, so have a look at the indifferent state here. It's the urogenital fold, the labioscrotal swelling, the cloacal membrane, and in the sagittal view on week 4. Now, genital tubercle, the urogenital membrane, labioscrotal swelling. For the male external genitalia for formation, you can see here's the external urethral orifice, the scrotal raphe, and the forming scrotum. The penis will elongate. This is the sagittal section of the penis at various stages. You can see the urethral plate covered by the ectoderm. At various stages. Okay, so lateral to the urethral folds, another pair of folds exist where the genital swellings make their appearance. The genital tubercle forms the clitoris, the urethral fold forms the labia minora, the genital swellings form the labia majora, the urogenital membrane gets ruptured to form the vestibule. Right. So females have a complement of chromosome XX. The gene for determining and differentiating the ovary is WNT4 gene, responsible for Mullerian duct formation. WNT gene also increases formation of an anti-testis gene, that is the DAX1. The DAX1 inhibits the function of SOX9, which regulates the specifications and differentiation of the spermatogenic cells. WNT4 also regulates other genes which help in ovarian differentiation, especially TAF1, that is the Tata box binding protein associated factor 1. Thus, DAX1 and other genes under the influence of WNT cause differentiation of the ovary, and that's all about the formation of the reproductive system. Thank you.